I'm not, look, Ms.
But
Mace,
as someone
you
beat
can
their
file any
wife
motion
and it
you
was
want,
covered
and Mr.
up, we
Garcia
should
can
find
file
out.
any motion.
Someone married their brother to commit immigration fraud, we should find out. That's what this committee can do.
This, I mean,
I understand.
let's not defame
girlfriend.
members of Congress. Mr. Chairman, I just want to add to you, I just want to agree, first of all, I think Oversight Democrats, we don't believe either of these motions should be discussed. This is not the place to be going after members in this way. If there's a concern about a member, it should be at the Ethics Committee. But if members on the majority are going to go after members in our caucus, we're going to do the same. And so if the Republican majority wants to remove this amendment or vote this amendment down completely, we would join you on that. But what we're not going to do is allow the attack on one of our members.
And I'm
Mr.
not
Chairman,
defending or opposing. I'm just saying that's what the ethics
This is what we do up here. We just protect each other, protect our own, and nobody ever gets held accountable for anything up here. That's what this whole thing is BS.
It goes to the Ethics Committee.
Chair recognizes.
Which
Well,
then
we're
it dies
going
in
to
a
vote
black
on this.
hole.
Everybody's going to vote on this. We're going to vote on this because there's been a motion amendment. We're going to vote on the amendment and the motion. I'm just saying that's what the.
This may look like a procedural dispute inside a committee, but it's actually a stress test of how easily oversight power can be redirected into political punishment. What's really being tested here is whether Congress treats investigative authority as a tool for public accountability, or as a lever to target opponents when the cameras are on. This raises broader questions about due process, institutional restraint, and what happens when committees blur the line between governance and partisan escalation. In this video, we'll break down how this confrontation reveals the incentives driving modern oversight and what it means for the legitimacy of Congress itself.
The committee will now proceed with the Mace motion to subpoena the Department of. I'll recognize Ms. Mace to explain her motion.
Yes, this is to subpoena the immigration records of Ilhan Omar and her alleged brother husband and another husband whose names I cannot pronounce. The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform is the principal oversight committee of the U.S. House of Representatives and has broad authority to investigate any matter at any time under House Rule 10. And this particularly, the legislative thing that this would inform would identify reforms regarding immigration fraud and denaturalization processes, potential criminal liability, things that we needed to address statutorily and legislatively. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Garcia to speak on the Mace amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have an amendment to the motion made by Representative Mace.
State your amendment.
At the end of the motion, I'd like to add, pursuant to Clause 2K6 of House Rule 11, the committee shall subpoena all documents and communications from the Department of Defense regarding the military service record of Representative Cory Mills of Florida.
Amen.
All documents, communications, and contracts from the Department of Defense, Department of Justice, of Interior, of Homeland Security, and Department of State related to Representative Cory Mills of Florida. And any business in which he or any relative has a financial or controlling interest, including Pacom Defense, Pacom Solutions International LLC, ALS LLC, and any documents and communication from the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin, in his personal capacity, and the White House regarding any communications around the February 2025 domestic violence incident in Washington, D.C., involving Representative Cory Mills of Florida. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be recognized to explain the amendment.
Mr. Garcia amended the Mace motion. Does any other member seek recognition?
I'd like to just comment on the motion.
Go ahead.
And then I can, if I can
I'll
comment
recognize Garcia, then Mace. Go ahead.
I just want to begin by saying, broadly speaking, on the initial motion, Congresswoman Omar is a proud member of this body and an American, and as American as any member of this body. She's a public servant and a fighter for her constituents, and she represents the American dream. And I know I and House Democrats are honored and proud to support her and to serve with her. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has endured horrific attacks her entire time in public office, and we admire her courage. My motion requests documents on Cory Mills, a Republican from Florida. And I just want to note that this is not the best way of handling these types of issues. And we are introducing this only because this is being introduced on Representative Ilhan Omar. And so we are forced to make this motion and this amendment to Representative Nancy Mace's motion. And so with that, I conclude.
Gentleman yields back. Now, Chair recognizes Ms. Mace to speak on the Garcia amendment to her motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I support Representative Garcia's amendment, and you beat me to it. I was going to do this on the House Armed Services Committee, and I'm a little jealous that you beat me to it. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. It is the best sunshine, and if there are individuals, I don't care about party, I don't care about affiliation, this needs to be we need to get to the bottom of it and what's going on. And quite frankly, I don't think someone that allegedly is doing arms deals should be sitting on the Foreign Affairs Committee or the House Armed Services Committee. And if this is what gets to the bottom of what's happening over there, then I support it, and I support the amendment, and let's do it.
All right, but you yield back. You yield to me. So I've had several members request information about trying to determine if Ms. Omar was involved in any of the Somali fraud and this and that. The thing that I've told people is the Ethics Committee is set up to do that. That's what the Ethics Committee's sole purpose is to investigate members. So we've got a motion by Mr. Garcia to amend Ms. Mace's motion. Both the amendment and the motion seek this committee to investigate sitting members of Congress. That's not something the Oversight Committee does, but we're a Democratic committee, and I'm not telling anybody in here how to vote. You vote however you want. But that's what the Ethics Committee role is. That's their jurisdiction. And I just wanted to state that. And again, look, I'm for whatever. I'm for transparency. You all vote the way you want. This committee's wired. You're going to vote the way you want anyway. I don't think the ranking member can tell his members how to vote, and I can't tell my members how to vote. I'm just telling you that's what the Ethics Committee's sole
Mr.
purpose in life is. So,
Mr. Chairman,
just stating that.
on a point of order.
Mr. Chairman.
Which one do we want to? Mr. Lynch.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if I believe you're correct in your assessment that that is not something within our jurisdiction. That would mean that that motion would be out of order, not subject to a vote. And let's do this anyway, even though it's not within our jurisdiction. That's a jurisdiction of another committee, and we normally and regularly refer matters that are not within our jurisdiction to other committees, and that's how that should be handled, sir. That's my thought.
The previous chairman of the, I'm going to respond to Mr. Lynch's inquiry. The previous chairwoman of the committee from New York, remind me, Maloney. She said the Oversight Committee has jurisdiction over anything and everything, and I kind of tend to believe that. But now the Ethics Committee has primary jurisdiction. There's no question about that. Now, do we have secondary jurisdiction? Possibly, probably, whatever. I'm not.
Mr. Chairman, under Rule 10, we have the ability. We have full oversight of the U.S. House of Representatives.
We can do pretty much what we want in this committee, but I just want to make it very clear so we don't start going down this road, or this committee will just turn into, investigating other members, whoever's in control. That's what the Ethics Committee set up to do. I'm not, look, Ms.
But
Mace,
if someone
you
beat
can
their
file any
wife
motion
and it
you
was
want,
covered
and Mr.
up, we
Garcia
should
can
find
file
out.
any
If
motion.
someone married their brother to commit immigration fraud, we should find out. That's what this committee can do.
I understand.
Let's not
Or
defame
girlfriend.
members of Congress. Mr. Chairman, I just want to add to you. I just want to agree, first of all. I think Oversight Democrats, we don't believe either of these motions should be discussed. This is not the place to be going after members in this way. If there's a concern about a member, it should be at the Ethics Committee. But if members on the majority are going to go after members in our caucus, we're going to do the same. And so if the Republican majority wants to remove this amendment or vote this amendment down completely, we would join you on that. But what we're not going to do is allow the attack on one of our members.
And I'm
Mr.
not
Chairman,
defending or opposing. I'm just saying that's what the Ethics
This is what we do up
Committee
here. We just protect
recognizes-
each other, protect our own, and nobody
look,
ever gets held accountable for anything up here. That's what this whole thing is BS.
It goes to the Ethics Committee.
Chair recognizes.
Which
We're
then it
going
dies in
to
a black
vote on
hole.
this. Everybody's going to vote on this. We're going to vote on this because there's been a motion amendment. We're going to vote on the amendment and the motion. I'm just saying that's what the Ethics Committee is supposed to do. Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are a few times that myself and Mr. Lynch agree on things. I think he would admit that, as I have. But on this occasion, I feel he is correct. And while this committee may have the jurisdiction to do all manner of things, I think this is a dangerous precedent to set. The Ethics Committee is set up specifically for this task. And I empathize with Representative Mace that it seems like there is no accountability over and over again. And maybe in the case of Representative Omar and Representative Mills, I might even feel that way. But we have a process here for a reason, and the Ethics Committee is set up the way it is for a reason so that there is equal representation in a place that is hyper-partisan over the smallest of things. And so that there is a due process where American citizens, individuals in this body and serving members are treated fairly. That's why we have that committee. And if we're going to run members through a partisan committee, which all the other ones are set up to be so, I think that that's going to be something that we might enjoy the outcome of at the moment, but will not enjoy the outcome at some future time when we're in the minority. And so on this occasion, I agree with Mr. Lynch, and I would encourage the chair to render this motion out of order. And with my remaining time, I would cede some time to Mr. Lynch.
I thank the gentleman, and he's correct. We don't agree that often, but I respect the gentleman. The other piece is this: is that anyone in the public can make an allegation of any member here for any reason, political or personal or otherwise. And if we're going to debate allegations from the public against members on this committee, then you are just exposed to whatever anyone throws at you. And all you got to do is spend about 1 minute on social media and think about the cruelty and falsity that can be tossed against any member. And then what the gentlelady is saying is that we want to debate the merits and the veracity of those allegations against us here in an open committee, rather than having it go to the ethics committee, who will be able to vet those allegations, and then if they are meaningful, bring something before the entire body. But we open every member now and in the future to terrible exposure to your reputation if you're going to handle every single allegation here in open public, regardless of how credible that allegation against a member might be. I just think it's bad for the institution, and there's another process that has worked in the past. Thank you. I yield back to the gentleman.
You
And I
yield to
yield,
Garcia, or
Mr. Chairman.
Who's got the floor? Mr. Perry?
I yield.
And we,
Oh,
you
if you
yield
want
to
to
me
engage
for
in a
a minute?
colloquy, absolutely.
I don't disagree with what Ms. Mace is trying to do. I don't disagree with what Mr. Garcia is trying to do. And I don't know, I have no idea what the Ethics Committee is doing on either of these. But I think it's disappointing that Ms. Omar wasn't here for the Minnesota Somali hearing. I mean, that's something I think she should have attended. And I think Mills should, answer questions on the House floor. I think they both, there are a lot of questions the American people have for both of them. All right, so I'm just saying, that's what the Ethics Committee.
Mr. Chair, did you just refer to it as a Somali hearing?
Mr. Chairman, as long as, hold on,
It was a hearing on Minnesota. I know, it was a hearing on Minnesota.
Somalians
fraud
committed
in the
billions of
welfare
dollars of
system.
fraud. It was a Somali hearing.
Somali fraud. There was Somali fraud. There were lots of Somali fraud allegations today.
Mr. Chairman, if we can continue our colloquy, you're the chairman of the committee, and you can make a ruling. Now, we might disagree with the ruling of the chair, but I would tell you it is my position and my recommendation, humbly and respectfully to the chair, that the chair should render this motion invalid. And if we want to challenge the ruling of the chair, then we can do that and have a vote on that. But I think this is of substance enough and import enough that we treat it with the gravity that Mr. Lynch and others have suggested, not only in this circumstance, feeling the same way you do, and in total honesty, quite honestly, the same way that Representative Mace does about whether this has been adjudicated appropriately or untimely or what have you. The point is this the place, is this the process to do those things? And I would agree with my colleagues on either side of the aisle that this is not the place to do what's being implied here in this motion. With that,
And to answer your question on ruling the chair, you asked the question, that was what Mr. Lynch started with. We can vote on whatever we want. In consulting with the parliamentarian, we can vote for this. We can do this. I'm just saying. That's what the ethics.
I understand,
Committee
Mr.
does.
Chairman.
So, Chair recognizes Mr. Garcia. Then
Thank you. I think we may have. I understand. First, I want to also associate myself with the comments that were just made, and particularly with Representative Lynch. I think again, this is not the appropriate place for this, and we have filed the substitute motion because of the main motion that was filed. What I'd like to do at this time is I'm going to withdraw my motion and instead do a motion to table, the Mace motion. And if that motion does not pass successfully, then I will bring my substitute motion on Representative Mills back to the floor. But now we have an opportunity with this additional amendment. I'm withdrawing the Mills amendment, and my new motion amendment is to table the initial Mace motion. I hope everyone votes yes on that. I think that solves the issues that a majority of us are trying to solve, and we can move on to the next item. So that is the new motion.
So, Mr. Garcia made a motion to table. That's not debatable.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question.
It's not debatable. I'm sorry.
It's
But
not
state
about-
your request. You're a good
Yeah,
member.
I just have a question. And
Do it quick because it's not debatable. But he will go ahead.
well, this is not about the motion to table. It's about under the Ethics Committee, if they find evidence against a member, they can make recommendations for censure, for removal. If we were to conduct something like that here, What power does this committee have? Is it the same power as the Ethics Committee? I really agree with Mr. Perry, Mr. Lynch, that this might be a bridge too far. And if we're going to do this, then we need to know what the consequences are going forward for any other member who might, including a member of this committee, who might have issues raised. How far does this go?
Okay. All right.
Other than just, a public trial? I'll yield back.
All right. So all those in favor of the motion to table signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion to table is agreed to. Is there any other business which needs to come before the committee?
The moment the gavel fell and the motion to table carried, the room did not exhale in relief. It tightened. What had just unfolded was not closure, but exposure. A hearing that began with a procedural motion had escalated into something far more revealing. A raw display of how power protects itself, how rules are invoked selectively, and how accountability in Washington is often debated endlessly, but rarely delivered. Representative Nancy Mace stood at the center of that storm, calling for subpoenas in the name of oversight, invoking House Rule 10 and the committee's sweeping authority. Her argument was simple in structure, but explosive in implication. If Congress claims the power to investigate the machinery of government, then no individual, no matter how elevated, should be automatically shielded from scrutiny. The language was formal. The stakes were not. What followed was not a dispute over facts, but a clash over boundaries, who may be questioned by whom and under what circumstances. Almost immediately, the response came, not to resolve the question, but to mirror it. A counter-amendment, another name, another demand for records, not as an independent inquiry, but as a direct reaction. And in that exchange, the hearing revealed its deeper truth. In modern Washington, investigations are no longer just tools of accountability. They are weapons, deterrence, leverage. If you move against one member, expect retaliation in kind. What mattered most was not whether the allegations were true, incomplete, or unproven. What mattered was how quickly the conversation shifted away from substance and toward jurisdiction. Over and over, members invoked the Ethics Committee like a sacred boundary line. This is not our role. This is not the place. This must go elsewhere. And yet, moments later, many of the same voices insisted that this committee has authority over anything and everything. The contradiction was not accidental. It was strategic. Because jurisdiction in Washington is not just a legal concept. It is a shield. It is a delay. It is how accountability is redirected until it dissolves into process. The Ethics Committee becomes a destination that sounds definitive but functions quietly, slowly, and often invisibly. A place where matters go not necessarily to be resolved, but to be absorbed. Throughout the hearing, members spoke passionately about fairness, due process, and institutional integrity. Those words echoed through the chamber. But listen carefully to how they were used. Fairness was invoked not as a standard to uncover truth, but as a reason to stop asking questions. Due process was framed not as a path toward resolution, but as a reason to avoid public examination altogether. And institutional integrity became synonymous with institutional self-preservation. One line cut through the noise with unintended clarity. This is what we do up here, protect each other. It was spoken almost casually, and yet it may have been the most honest sentence of the entire proceeding. This hearing was not really about immigration records or military contracts. It was about whether Congress is willing to apply its own standards evenly, or only when politically convenient. It was about whether sunlight is truly welcomed or merely celebrated in speeches while quietly blocked in practice. And it was about the growing gap between how accountability is described to the public and how it actually functions behind closed doors. Even those who warned of dangerous precedents acknowledged the underlying frustration. a sense that questions linger unanswered, that concerns pile up without resolution, that the American people are told again and again to trust a system that seems expertly designed to delay conclusions indefinitely. The fear expressed was not just about misuse of power today, but about who holds power tomorrow. And that fear, while politically motivated, is also deeply revealing. Because a system that only works when the right people are in control is not a system built on principle. It is a system built on advantage. As the motion to table passed, it did not settle the matter. It postponed it. It sent it elsewhere. And in doing so, it reinforced a familiar pattern. When scrutiny approaches too closely, process steps in to absorb the impact. The gears turn. The language softens. And the moment passes. But moments like this do not disappear. They accumulate. They shape public trust. They define whether citizens believe their representatives are governed by the same standards they impose on others. When hearings become battlegrounds of procedure rather than truth, the cost is not just political, it is moral. Oversight is not supposed to be comfortable. Transparency is not supposed to be tidy. And accountability is not supposed to depend on party alignment. When those principles are compromised in the name of decorum or caution, something far more important is lost: credibility. What we witnessed was not chaos. It was choreography, a system reacting exactly as designed when pressure is applied from within. And that design tells us more than any single allegation ever could. This is why these moments matter. Not because of who is named, but because of what is revealed. About leadership, about power, about a government that speaks endlessly about responsibility, while quietly negotiating the limits of its own exposure. The American system was built on the idea that no one is above scrutiny. That principle does not weaken institutions, it strengthens them. And when it is set aside, even temporarily, the consequences linger far beyond one hearing, one motion, or one vote. If you believe accountability should not be conditional, if you believe oversight should not depend on who holds the gavel, and if you believe transparency should apply to everyone equally, then this is your moment to stay engaged. Support our work to expose the truth. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.